It's important to weigh your beans ahead of time, and it's also a good idea just to inspect the green beans before you roast them. You'll notice that the green beans, they smell really good. They're really fragrant, they're sweet, but they're also a lot smaller and denser than the roasted copy. So I always like to do 8 ounces just because it's about a half pound, normally lasts me a couple days, and it's a good, drinkable amount, but it also gives me a chance to make tweaks to it too. If it came out too burnt or not developed enough, then I know the next batch is pretty easy to make adjustments to. Just like quantum, one of the most important things to roasting is data. A lot of roasters keep logs. This helps us track, what the weight was that we measured, that we roasted, the progressions, how long it took to get to certain levels, and then also what the flavors were. It gets really hard to really roast the same consistent flavors time after time. Consistency is one of the biggest challenges to home roasting. Small changes in temperature and time, or even weight of the coffee that you're roasting, can really have a big impact on the flavor that you come out with. So if you want to get the same flavor every time, then really doing logs is your best bet, and can be really helpful too if you want to try something that you haven't tried in a while or just see what you did wrong. It can really help. Okay, we just put the beans in, and they're in their first phase of the roasting process, which is called the drying phase. It's not really that interesting. You can still see the beans look the same, and right now, they're really what we're really trying to do is get all the moisture out of the bean. This part, it's important to start off with the most heat that you can, and then gradually reduce the heat throughout the roasting cycle. This will help us control the flavor profile. But really, the most important part right now is just getting the moisture out. So we'll come back when the beans have cooked a little bit more. Okay, we've started entering the browning stage. You can tell the color of the bean is starting to get a little bit paler, and the beans are expanding a little bit. You can also really smell like a grassy hay scent, which is starting to come out. That's a really good indicator that you're in the browning stage. What's happening now is that most of the moisture is coming out of the bean, and now some of the sugars are breaking down and some of the chemical reactions are starting to take place. Now's the time where if you really want to start playing with the roast profile again, this is when people will start adjusting the temperature, maybe lowering the temperature a little bit to draw it out and really extend more of the development phase or not. But we're going to keep this going, and really what we're waiting for is first crack. The beans are going to continue to expand until they get to first crack, where the bean actually cracks open, gases come out, and that's when you really need to lower the temperature. Otherwise, you're going to burn your bean. But what a lot of people do after first crack, once you get to first crack, then you have drinkable coffee. From that point, it's really just a matter of personal taste. So people who like light coffee, light flavors, right after first crack, that's when they pull it out. Darker roasts generally go about 2 to 3 minutes after first crack. Sometimes it goes into second crack, and then they pull their beans. But we'll check back in a little bit later on first crack. Okay, we're coming up to first crack now, and you can see the beans have gotten a lot darker, and they're starting to pop. You can hear them. It sounds just like popcorn. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and lower the temperature and just let it go. Really, at this point, it's all personal preference, but I'm going to let it go another minute or two of development and get a little bit darker. All right, pulled these out. These are about a light to medium roast, and cooled them. That's the final stage of roasting. You have about 4 minutes from the time you pull your beans to when you need to be cool to touch. Otherwise, they're still cooking after you pull them out of the roaster. So you need to make sure to bring them down to a normal temperature, or else you could burn your beans. The last tips I want to point out, which can be just as important as the roast level, is getting the right grind and water to bean ratio. I can't stress this enough. I've gone through so many batches where, I thought I could eyeball it and really messed it up, and there is a magic ratio, and that is you want to be about 16 to 17 times water to bean. So one of the things that are really helpful are these little scales. You can get them on Amazon. I think I spent $15 on this thing, and it helps me, don't eyeball it, like, get the best out of your coffee, and it's really easy to do. You just measure, you tap out the pour over or whatever kind of device you're using, and then I've got it in grams, so 22.4 grams. So times that times 16 or 17 or somewhere in the middle, and it's going to be about, I don't know, 360, 380 grams of water that I want to pour in over that. And that'll bring out the perfect cup. That'll bring out the right flavor, the balance of flavors. It won't be diluted. It won't be too strong. And it just makes a really nice, reproducible cup of coffee.